Introduction from me. My name is Miles Clayton. I run a small PR agency called Agility PR. Agility PR has been working in the physical security market, as we now call it. We used to call it the CCTV world, and to some extent the fire safety world for upwards of 20 years. Um, and I've been submitting awards for various clients for all of that time to what used to be called the Security Excellence Awards and is now called the Security and Fire Awards for Excellence. So I'm heavily involved with the organisers in terms of setting and refining the categories each year. So each year we tweak and improve and make it hopefully a little bit easier to do excellent entries and expand the number of categories, etc. And then I'm also an independent entry writer for those that want to put their best foot forward for these awards. And I do award writing for a number of technology-based businesses in a number of markets outside security. So let's zoom straight in. Yeah, just to recap, really, my work and association with these awards started with my work with an organization called Axis Communications, now part of Canon. Axis was the founder of the world's first network camera in a world in those days, 25 years ago, when everything was traditional analog based, coax based CCTV, particularly in the UK. So it was an interesting time to be promoting IP video and network cameras when most people didn't want to know, if I'm honest. So yeah, interesting times, and worked with them for the best part of 10 years and was submitting entries for Security Excellence Awards for most of that time for them and a number of their partners as well. So lots of integrators and installers. And since then, in my capacity as an independent awards writer, I've probably submitted an average of 2 different entries per year for the last 7 years, all of which have gained shortlistings and many of which have won. So yeah, so in essence, that's what we do. Agility PR more widely is a PR agency in the sense that we do all writing and content for a number of clients in and outside security. These days, a lot of it's thought leadership writing as well as customer advocacy writing. So case studies, reference materials, video case studies are quite common these days, and obviously writing for clients' websites as well as for the media that serve their markets. So that's us. And to whiz straight into the detail of these awards, this year's awards, we've got 29 categories. So we've tried to keep it as tight as ever. So we try and keep it below 30 actually. Otherwise, it's just too many awards to get through in the evening. And we've added a couple of new ones as we're broadening the tent. We have introduced one which is related to trade associations and professional bodies and their role in supporting the security and fire space. And we've added another one which is specifically to celebrate marketing campaigns. So the objective is to really create the ultimate awards dinner for the industry, where all comers are lauded, and all comers are welcome. Very often we've got dedicated awards for specific constituent groups. So I suppose the main groups we focus on are the vendors themselves. So in the software, hardware world, and in security guarding, and across to fire, and then different aspects of what those companies are likely to be promoting or interested in being known for, different aspects of their service, and also some of the more corporate goals like best company to work for, sustainability champion, etc. And then we've got another big area which is focused on projects and initiatives in particular. So that's where the marketing campaign comes in now. But specific things that have been done in the last 12 months that you want to shine a spotlight on. Security partnering initiative, for example, project of the year. These are very popular award entry categories. And obviously the project of the year, inactive fire, passive fire, etc. Intelligent applications of AI is another one which is fairly new. I think we launched that one last year. And then we've got a sort of industry choice one, which is essentially voted on by the industry, and a product service categories, innovate. So that's specifically product orientated rather than project. And then we've got an individual and team area as well, which we added about 4 years ago. So I think all bases covered. The aim is to, as say, be the premier awards for the security and fire world, by including everyone in the tent. So hopefully, regardless of the type of business you are, you will be able to find a category or several categories that fit the type of business that you are and the things that you're looking to promote based on good works you've done in the last year. So in terms of making it easy and making it straightforward to respond, obviously you've got all those categories, and hopefully one of those is a direct fit for you. My advice is to draft entries in Word form initially, and that'll help obviously with the passing it around the business and getting approvals on elements of it. And then think very hard about your word limits. So what we've done to make life a little bit easier, instead of limiting answers by question, we've just said the entire response. So normally across 4 or 5 or even sometimes 6 questions, we'll have a word limit of between 1,250 and 1,650. The upper number really is if you're including customer reference materials and case studies, which some of the entries mandate. And then the other thing to think about is once you've created all that content, make sure it fits onto, for the core entry, a maximum of 2 A4 pages. And then for any supporting documentation, including case studies and literature, etc., that's a further 2 A4 size pages. Both of those then need to be crunched into PDFs, separate PDFs, and sit at no larger than 5 megabytes before submission. And there's obviously more detail on the Security Fire Awards website at that link there. And we've got roughly 6 weeks now, a little bit less than 6 weeks to do the submissions, the deadline being the 8th of September. And that, I suspect, will be the final deadline. It might move again but it won't move by very many days from here. So I think aim to get your entries finished by then. Okay, I'm going to move on. So just in terms of improvements, I mean, I've been involved in one or two entries where I've just been asked to improve the way things are written. And I think the key thing from this example that is perhaps illustrated is to really just make life easier for the judges to understand and quickly absorb the information. So use wherever you can tables, um, make make it clear what it is you're trying to talk about in terms of, in this case, growth. It's talking about the growth of the business, um, and just be very clear about what you're trying to communicate and do it in a way which is much easier to understand to essentially the layman, although these are all absolute experts. So we've got somebody else joining. Hello, hopefully joining me. Anyway, um, brilliant. Um, Thank you very much for joining. Sorry, we're a little bit in, but we're just getting into the detail of how to improve one's entry. Uh, so yeah, a couple more joining. I'm sorry that we've got problems with, I can't unmute you at the moment. I'm not quite sure how to do that. So I'm not doing it at the moment, but what I will do is try and prevent that happening at the end. We can have a proper session. Um, anyway, maybe that can be resolved. I don't know. Okay, brilliant. So in terms of, hopefully you can see the screen. So in this one, we're really just trying to make it easier for the judge to understand what it is that you're trying to communicate through use of tables, essentially just making it an easier read because they've got hundreds of these things to read. So the quicker they're able to absorb the information that you've got, that you've presented in a way in which they can understand, the better. Another example here is, just so this is how they may have laid it out before, and in this one, I've just made sure that they're focusing on benefits. So it's just one clean list of the benefits that they're looking to deliver, or they have delivered in the improvements that the business has been making. So just it's all about clarity, lists wherever possible, charts, illustrations, and good summarization. So just to recap, really, some of the do's. Always think in terms of what the benefits are to the outside world. In other words, your target audience, to the new product, service, project, um, or whatever you've delivered. And as much as possible in layman's terms, certainly with as many of the acronyms extracted or in speak that you use extracted. Obvious one, really, write it well, draft and redraft very carefully, get it proofed by others, make sure you're not the only one putting it together, and maintain that clarity and conciseness throughout the entry. There isn't that many words. I mean, 1,650 may sound a lot, but it really isn't. It's 2 pages of A4, and you're answering normally, as I say, 4, even possibly 5 questions. So, something like 300 or 400 words per question. So it isn't a huge amount of space. So being concise is key. Answering those questions very directly. Don't just cut and paste pre-prepared marketing text. So be much more objective in what you're saying. Try to push out superlatives and subjective judgments about success. So pure marketing materials rehashed probably not be good enough for the entry. Secure those third-party endorsements if appropriate, and particularly if mandated, because some of those award entries demand customer testimonials and case studies. And then make sure you're highlighting results. Make those results as measurable as possible in terms of how you present them, and draw out your differentiators, and wherever possible, illustrate where what you've done is above and beyond both what your customers would expect, but also what your competitors you think are likely to be delivering. Just to conclude on the do's, for case studies, build a structure into those case studies as you normally do, I'm sure. So you've got your aims and objectives up front, the aims and objectives of the work, or the work you're doing for the customer, what you actually did in terms of the solution you built and how you did it, and the results that have so far accrued from the work, and then give some evidence of that success where you can. And a good quote from the customer is also helpful. And use headlines and bullet points wherever you can, as I mentioned. And yeah, try to dig in a little bit to the story behind the story. In other words, what makes this story special, and what makes it stand out. In terms of don'ts, I think I've covered nearly all of those already. So yeah, don't simply rewrite existing sales collateral. Try to avoid those acronyms and tech speak. And don't assume too much knowledge of your business by existing, the assigned judges. Just write it in a fairly objective way, and yeah, try to avoid exceeding the word count, and particularly it's crucial to avoid exceeding the page number limits. Just to get in a little bit more detail on that, yes, essentially you've got a page limit of two pages on the core entry, and a further 2 pages on the backup documentation. And there's more detail, obviously, on the Security and Fire Awards website on how to enter. But that is in essence the key considerations. And the event itself is Monday the 1st of December. We've moved to a larger venue, because essentially the event has been expanding steadily. So we've moved up from the Hilton Park Lane up to Marriott Grosvenor House in the last couple of years. In fact, I think it's going to be our 3rd year this year. And it's now, I think, the premier event. We try to get all the key companies there. We're now also inviting other publishers, so other media there in larger numbers. And it's really a big celebration, probably the biggest celebration of the whole security and fire world of the year. So we look forward to welcoming you there. And in addition to that, obviously, it would be great if you were interested in submitting an entry. As I say, we've got about just over 5 weeks to submit. If you think you need help over the next month, then that is my contact details, and certainly happy to send the whole presentation across to you. We've got one question from Aeon. Excuse if I've mispronounced your name. So common mistakes or red flags judges see in the entries. Well, I think the most common problem, I have to say, is that issue I described of sort of evidence of cutting and pasting, particularly where you're doing several entries. So if you were deciding to enter under several categories, and there's some evidence that you're sort of cutting and pasting from either from existing marketing or sales materials or from a another entry. Clearly, answering the question precisely and directly is the key. So if you are simply, you've got sort of standard text that you use to promote your business, and you're just sort of cutting and dumping that with sort of superlatives and subjective words, then that's definitely a problem. And if indeed you're overly technical in your response, so that they don't really understand what you're talking about without doing a whole load of Googling, then again, that's a little bit of a problem. So I would say those are the principal red flags to worry about. You know, we've captured the common mistakes. I think it's like answering any exam question. You know, read the question is number one advice, I think. You know, when I speak to judges, I only do it once a year at the dinner. They say that's the number one problem is actually answering the question very directly and concisely. And the other problem in the past, I have to say, is people ignoring the word limits and just blasting through that and submitting way too many documents in support. But all of that has been more or less stopped because they've put a very hard limit of those two-page PDF docs now, so it's very clear. And we've also made it slightly easier by having a single word limit for the whole entry. In other words, whatever it is, 1,650 at the top, really. So it's not too onerous, and yet it's onerous enough to sort of so the judges get enough clarity on, you know, why your entry is significantly better than the competition. Yeah. Does that make sense, Chris? Is there anything mobile viewers to open up? Very good. So thank you for your time. Any further questions, do feel free to reach out. Hopefully you've got my my contact details. If not, I will be sending through anyway to everyone that attended the presentation in full, so you'll have that. So thank you for your time, and I'm probably gonna close up shortly unless there are any other questions in the chat, which I can't see. So thank you again, and good luck, and hope to see you at the dinner on the 1st of December. Thank you again. Okay, bye bye.